What's up, book nerds, and welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since I've uploaded, but I've just been very busy with college, work, life, etc. I just read this book that was recommended to me by my mother. My mom actually reads basically every book that I read that is like meant for a 20-year-old-ish person, girl. But she likes to read them all even though she's over 50, so it keeps her young, I guess. So yeah, she recommended this book to me, and I'd actually just gotten it for my birthday about a month and a half ago from my brother, one of my brothers, because I got him a kick-ass Christmas present and I think he felt bad, so then he got me a bunch of books for my birthday. I'm glad he was guilty because then I got a bunch of good books. So without further ado, we're gonna talk about November 9th by Colleen Hoover.
I just saw Haley's comment, she waved.
I know what you're thinking. Not another Colleen Hoover book, Haley. But I have to read all of her books and review all of them and give a little recap on here. Personally, I've liked all the past books I've read, and also she's just popping off everywhere, and most people have read her stuff or should or are going to because it's highly recommended right now. So I just have to read them all, and since I'm reading them, it's really all I can recap and review right now. Let's get into this recap. If you don't want any spoilers, probably just wait until after the first meeting. I'm gonna go into meetings and you'll understand your cue to leave, but just stay around for the next few minutes while I give the first November 9th meeting. On November 9th, a girl named Fallon goes to a restaurant to meet her father. Her father and her don't really have a great relationship. It is very strained because 2 years ago, when she was 16 years old, she was injured very badly in a fire at her father's house, and her father kind of forgot about her in his house, and she was left there when he got out and got burned very badly. And so now, flash forward 2 years, their relationship is still very strained because she feels like, how could you forget about me? He also used to be kind of a good actor. Now he's a little bit washed up, but he's very narcissistic and selfish. And so their relationship just isn't really great. So she's going to meet him at this restaurant on November 9th, exactly 2 years from the fire date. She's telling him that she is leaving California, LA, to move to New York City, and she really wants to go on to Broadway because before the fire, she was just starting out her acting career. Her father was actually her coach, and she was really good. She was in this hit TV series as a young kid, but since the fire, she got burned on like half her face and half her body really bad, and since acting is a very conceited physical looks sort of career, she kind of got let go from that show. Oh, there's my cat. You want to say hi? Hi. Oh, you're so handsome. I got a cat too in the last few months. His name is Gandalf. Yes, from Lord of the Rings, Gandalf the Grey. I'm a nerd. What can I say? Anyway, she got laid off from her TV series at the age of 16. She had to go into rehab, a bunch of things. Her father, during this meal, it's like lunchtime, is like, you know, Fallon, I think you should think about a completely different career path, and is not outright saying it, but is kind of insinuating that like, you're no longer attractive, you're not gonna work well on Broadway, you didn't work well in Hollywood acting, you're not gonna do any better in Broadway in New York, so I think you should let that dream go. Like, it's not for you. Fallon goes to the bathroom, and on her way back from the bathroom, she's in there for a little bit, she makes eye contact with this boy. The boy looks a little disheveled, but stares her down, and she is very insecure, not a confident girl. This boy is like staring at her. She lets her hair fall in front of her face. She normally always is very covered up because she never wants anyone to stare too long. Goes back, sits down, keeps talking to her dad, and then this boy all of a sudden pops up into her booth with her dad and acts like they're together, that they're dating. He puts his arm around her and says, "Sorry I'm late, babe." His name turns out to be Ben, He introduces himself to her father as Fallon's boyfriend, even though they've never met before. Ben and her father kind of get into it, and the father ends up leaving. Fallon is very mad. It's like her worst fight she's ever had with her father in the last 2 years. So Ben ends up ordering her some more food because she didn't really eat her lunch. She was just talking to her father and it went cold. They eat together, and then Fallon's like, well, if you want to pretend to be my fake boyfriend, that's fine, but like, I gotta go pack. Do you want to come back to my apartment with me and help me pack? Ben goes back with her. They start packing, end up in Fallon's closet, and Ben like undresses her, but it's not really for, you know, physical pleasure. It's more just to like get her out of her comfort zone and show all of herself, her scars, to Ben, because he's curious, and he's also like, you're beautiful. Don't let your dad or literally anyone else tell you any different. Like, you are beautiful, your scars are beautiful. So undresses her to her underwear in the closet. They have plans to go to dinner that night, and then after dinner, Fallon is supposed to get on a flight to New York City. Like, she's leaving that night. They end up falling asleep in Fallon's bed and missing dinner. So then Ben takes Fallon to the airport, and they say their goodbyes, but they kind of both have an idea. So Ben is a writer. He's majoring in creative writing. So they kind of have this idea for a plot line for a book that every year for 5 years they will meet on November 9th at the same place and time, like in that restaurant at the same time, for 5 years, because Fallon has this big idea that her mom told her, you can't really find love because you can't really find yourself until you're 23. So she has this idea that she cannot date Ben for real until then. And Ben is on board. He's like, okay, let's just see each other every year. It can be a good plot line for my book. So they both agree, and they block each other on all their social medias and agree, like, we're not exchanging a phone number or anything. We will not see each other or communicate in any way except for on November 9th for 5 years straight until they're 23 years old. And then he basically drops her off, and she goes in, and as she's going to check herself into her flight, Ben does this whole dramatic thing, because a lot of this book they talk about books. I know, ironic, but just like big love romance novels and grand gestures and what makes a kiss like a 5 to a 10, what's book worthy basically. And so he makes this huge grand slow motion run to her and like kisses her goodbye, and then gives her some homework, which is basically like try out for a bunch of Broadway plays and go out on dates, experience life. Because that's the other thing, it's not like they're exclusive, they're very much so date other people. They're not real life boyfriend and girlfriend. That is the first November 9th. They go their separate ways. Fallon to New York City, Ben stays in LA and starts college, and Fallon's going there to New York to start her Broadway journey. And that's the first November 9th. So here, if you don't want any spoilers, please go out. But from here on out, I'm gonna go through 5 different sections of the book and tell you all that happens, because it's amazing. 2nd November 9th, Ben is waiting at the restaurant, same place, same time, and Fallon is not there. Some lady from across the street that works at this phone place or something like that comes in and taps Ben on the shoulder and is like, I have this girl on a phone for you. And so Ben goes over to a different store and answers it, and it's Fallon. She's like, I'm so sorry, I'm late, my plane got delayed and the restaurant's phone wasn't working, so I had to call somewhere nearby. I'm here, like, my plane landed, I'm coming. And Ben's like, okay, that's fine, but it's been a few hours. So Ben's like, how about you just meet me at my house? Ben goes home and Fallon gets a taxi to his house. Fallon goes inside Ben's house, and they go up to his room and are just kind of making out, saying hi, catching up, as you do. And this girl walks in on them. Her name's Jordan. And at first, Fallon's like, oh, is this like a girlfriend? But she doesn't react in that way, kind of reacts as a sister would, and leaves and says sorry. So then they go down, and it turns out this Jordan girl is engaged to marry Ben's brother, Kyle, and it's like in a week, so the wedding is coming up right now. So she's all stressed out. They kind of talk, and then Kyle gets home, and when that was all happening, Miles, the other brother, is also there. So Fallon meets the whole fam basically. But when Kyle gets home, he's like angry at Ben for some reason, like immediately. And then they go talk to each other separately away from Fallon, and then Fallon walks in and Kyle ends up punching Ben in the face. And it's like this whole thing, because obviously the conversation was tense. So then Ben and Fallon leave the room. Ben is just like, I'm not really gonna tell you what happened, but he's never hit me before, like my brother's never hit me, and he's a good guy regardless of what you just witnessed. Also, while they're at Ben's house, Fallon kind of discloses that no one has ever seen one of her breasts because it's very much burned from the fire, and that she's very insecure about it. And Ben ends up seeing her breast and loves it. Shocker. What is it about guys and boobs? I don't know. They're just two lumps, you know what I mean? But to each their own. After all of this happens, Ben and Fallon end up leaving. They go to the beach, and Fallon discloses she also has never been to the beach since the fire, and it's just really nice. And then all of a sudden, Ben is like, I want to get a tattoo right now before you go back, because again, Fallon is leaving that night to go back to New York City. So they go to the tattoo parlor, and Ben gets the word poetic on the inside of his wrist over top a music staff. And he won't tell Fallon why all of a sudden he wanted a tattoo or what the tattoo even means. He just does it. And then Ben drives her to the airport, and this time he just parks in the parking garage and walks her in, like he doesn't make some grand book-worthy goodbye. Fallon gets on the plane. Ben shows up on the plane. He bought a plane ticket for an obnoxious amount of money because he forgot to give Fallon her homework for this next year and a letter, so he gives it to her quick, kisses her, and then leaves. Flash forward, we're on to the next November 9th, and this is when it gets crazy. At the end of the last November 9th, they agreed to meet in Brooklyn, in New York City, this time a little bit earlier because Fallon really wants to show Ben around the city. Fallon is waiting at this new place they decided to meet, and Ben is not showing. And then somehow, again, someone comes up and tells Fallon, like, there's a person on the phone for you, after she's been waiting for a while. And it's Ben. She can immediately tell, like, he's not in New York. He's not late. Like, his plane didn't get delayed like hers did. He's not coming. And she's just heartbroken. It turns out that Ben's brother, Kyle, actually got in a car accident and died, like, that day or the day before, like, very suddenly. And so he couldn't go to New York, obviously. So they hang up. And then it kind of is in Ben's point of view, and he's just at his house, and a bunch of people are over, family, and they're bringing casseroles, and Jordan, Kyle's wife, is all sad in her bedroom. There gets to be a knock on the door later that night, and Ben opens it, and it's Fallon. And Ben just hugs her and is like, I can't believe you're here, like, this is all I needed and more. So they go up to Ben's bedroom, and Ben discloses, after, like, he hugs her and everything, and cries that Jordan is in fact pregnant with Kyle's baby son, and Kyle will never be able to meet him. Jordan is now a new bride, gonna be a new mother, and is all alone, and is just devastated. So Ben breaks down, and then they end up connecting and having sex. And also, eventually that night, like, they all eat together. Again, Miles is the oldest brother who did not pass away, thank goodness. And Jordan comes out, and there are other people there, and they eat dinner. And so they might have sex after dinner or before, or both. I have no idea. But they have sex for the first time, and it's amazing because, you know, they actually love each other. After they're done having sex, Ben is like, I don't want you for a plot line anymore. I don't want you once a year. I want to talk to you every day. I want to move to New York. Like, I love you. I want you every day, not just on November 9th. And so Fallon agrees and is like, okay, let's do this. And then they wake up in the morning, and Fallon wakes up first, and she goes downstairs, and Jordan's there. Jordan at this time just kind of discloses that she doesn't want to move back in with her mom. She wants to have the baby at, like, Ben's family's house and raise him there. And she doesn't want to be all alone, but, like, she can't ask Ben or Miles, the older brother, to, like, help raise this child, their nephew. But she feels so alone, and she doesn't know what to do. And Fallon realizes that Ben cannot go with her to New York. He has to stay. He has to help Jordan, and he has to finish his book because she also finds out that Ben has an agent now, a literary agent. And so she doesn't want to ruin his dream of writing or his goal of writing this book. She's like, no, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm gonna go. So Ben comes down. Fallon is all ready to go, leaves, and Ben is heartbroken, and that, like, the taxi is like, I don't want this. Like, I want to go. Tell me you love me. Like, you can't just leave after we had sex and, like, gave our alls to each other and then just do this to me. Like, tell me you love me. And Fallon will not. Even though she does, she just doesn't disclose that to him because she wants him to stay and help Jordan and the baby and then also write his book. And so that is the split. Next November 9th, they go to LA and they meet at the restaurant, same place, same time. This is the third meeting, I guess, and they have 5 meetings, so it's the third one. Ben shows up with the nephew, and his name is Oliver, and he's super cute, and him and Fallon just catch up and talk, and it kind of slips that Ben is now with Jordan, as in Ben is romantically involved with his dead brother's wife. And Fallon is just, like, heartbroken, goes to the bathroom, is crying. Ben comes in with Oliver, of course, and, like, nothing can be reconciled. And she leaves abruptly, and Ben follows her. As she's leaving, it's disclosed that she actually moved back to LA just recently to be here with Ben, and that she actually does love him, and she's always loved him since last year, probably even before that. She just didn't say anything because of all A, B, and C. But never mind, like, have a good life. I can't do this anymore. You just broke my heart. And they split. Next November 9th, this is the 4th one. Fallon is like, I'm not doing anything all day. I'm staying in my apartment in LA and I'm not going out. I can't see him if I'm not going out. She doesn't show up at the restaurant because she said she's done. And then her old roommate and friend from LA, her name's Amber, gets her to go out that night to, like, a bar or club, sort of, and invite the guy that Fallon's sort of seeing. His name is Theo. I'm gonna call him Theo, even though I don't know if it was ever abbreviated to Theo in the book, but I'm doing that. Amber gets Fallon to go out that night, dress all cute, with Theo. They're at the club. Theo's kind of making everybody uncomfortable, and Fallon just doesn't really like him. And who shows up at their table? Ben. And Ben acts like, you know, he doesn't even know Fallon, and he just starts asking Theo questions and Fallon questions. And then Amber shows up, and Amber's like, oh shit, not this guy. So they're all kind of talking, and Fallon's like, I've had enough, and goes to the bathroom, and then comes out of the bathroom, and Ben's there. He pulls her aside, and they get all close, and Ben discloses that he screwed up the year before about dating Jordan. He had no idea how Fallon actually felt about him. He split with Jordan, like, that day, and now he's nothing but an uncle to Oliver, and he moved out of that house and gave it to Jordan and Oliver, and he's living alone, and he wants Fallon to go home with him that night. Fallon kisses him, but then Amber shows up. They go back to the table, and Ben has had it with Theo. Everybody dislikes him anyway, so whatever. Ben discloses that he actually knows Fallon, and not just that he knows her, that he loves her, and he's going to marry her, and he wants her to come home with him that night. And sorry, buddy, but, like, she's mine. They kind of get into it. They go outside, end up, like, hitting each other. I don't know who hits who. And then Theo says something like, she wasn't even that pretty anyway, about Fallon. And then everybody freaks out except for Fallon and, like, hits him, and, like, Amber throws her shoe at him. It's a whole thing. He leaves. They all get into a car, and Fallon and Ben drop off Amber and her boyfriend. And it turns out the boyfriend is the one who told Ben where Fallon would be that night, because they like each other. They're friends. They're broskies, I guess. Fallon ends up going home with Ben. It's confessed to each other that they both feel the same way, and nothing could change how they feel. And they have sex again, and it's just la-di-da-di-da, butterflies, rainbows. Fallon discloses she's no longer trying to act, but she's coaching and teaching acting, which she loves. And Ben is about to graduate, or he did graduate, something like that. Fallon wakes up in the morning, and she's, for some reason, in Ben's closet and sees his manuscript, his book. And she's like, oh, what is this? Grabs it, takes it outside to like the kitchen table. She couldn't read all of it, but she's like, I kind of really want to know what happened between Ben and Kyle when Kyle punched him. Like, what were they talking about? It was very tense. She just was very curious. She's like, it probably isn't even about me, and so I just want to know. So she goes to that chapter and reads it and finds out that they were fighting because Kyle said, how could you bring her here? Like, how could you be talking to her when you're the one who started the fire? Yeah. And at first Fallon's like, how could he just like make this up? Because she's like, this is fiction, of course. But then she reads some more and finds out, no, like, he started the fire. And she's just mortified. She's scared. She's like, he's been lying to me this whole time. Is he a stalker? Like, what's going on? He comes out from the bedroom and she freaks out. He sees that she's reading the manuscript. He's like, oh shit, how much have you read? What do you know? And Fallon's just freaking out, won't let him explain himself, gets in the car and is like, I never want to see you again. I don't care what you have to say. I can't believe you never told me. Our whole relationship has been a lie. Don't ever talk to me again. I never want to see you. And that is that. Now we're on to the 5th and final November 9th. Starts out with Fallon and she has no plans to leave her apartment again. And she kind of talks about how her walls are up. She hasn't really gone out with anyone since the year prior because Ben completely broke her heart and broke her trust. She's up at 11:59 on November 8th. The clock strikes 12, midnight, November 9th starts. She gets a knock on her door. She goes out there, nobody's there, and a car is pulling away, but there is a box. So she brings the box inside, opens it, and it's a manuscript. And there's a letter from Ben saying, I will leave you alone forever. I'm so sorry. And also Fallon, right after that day, the year prior, went and filed a restraining order on Ben because she was that freaked out. So the letter was just saying like, I will leave you alone. I totally understand. You never want to see me again. I've accepted that, even though I love you and will love you forever. But please read this manuscript. It explains everything. The only lie I ever told you was the one I admitted about how I started the fire. But please read this. It explains everything, and it's all the truth. And this is just for you. I will never publish this book. It's for you and your eyes only. Please just read it. And you don't have to forgive me. I just want you to know the truth. And so Fallon's like, screw this guy, and goes to bed. But then wakes up, kind of sleeps in, still November 9th. So this is like the morning of November 9th. And she goes out and her mom's out there. And she is crying and reading the manuscript. And at first Fallon is just pissed and is like, you're invading my privacy. Like, how could you? That was not for you. And Fallon's mom is like, have you read this? And Fallon's like a chapter of it. And I read the prologue and that was enough for me. Like, it broke my heart and I'll never be the same. I don't ever want to talk to him. And her mom is like, Fallon, you need to read this. Like, this boy has demons and you owe it to him to read what he has to say in his truth. You don't have to forgive him, but please read this. So then her mom leaves and she decides to start reading. And it's crazy. It kind of starts out with how Ben's father died when he was a toddler, like 3 years old. So he only ever had his two older brothers and his mom. But at age 16, on November 9th, he woke up and it was dead silent. And at this point, his two older brothers were away and he was the only one there with his mom. And it was dead silent, and normally it was not. So he goes to find his mom in a pool of her own blood with a gun in her hand. She had committed suicide. He doesn't really know what to do. Obviously, like, you'd be shocked. It takes him a little bit to call an ambulance, and then it takes him a little bit to call his brothers, and like, everything's moving in slow motion. There was a suicide note, but Ben chooses not to read it. The ambulance comes, takes the mother away. During this time, Ben doesn't really know what to do, but he kind of is like, what the heck? Like, how did this happen? And gets it into his head that like, it must have been a man that did this, like made her do this. He goes through all of her stuff and finds a link to Fallon's father. Ben's pissed, and the brothers show up, and he's not really talking to the brothers, not really talking to anyone, hasn't even really cried, is just so focused on Fallon's father and like how his mom is just a selfish bitch for leaving him, especially him, all alone, like at the age of 16, taking her life just can't even fathom it. He gets obsessed and finds Fallon's father's address and goes there. He shows up in his car and is like doing stuff to his car and gets a phone call, and Ben is just from afar watching him. That's when he finds out about Ben's mother's death and is kind of sad, kicks a gas can, but he isn't really that upset, and he goes inside. Ben just feels like, if you truly loved my mother, or if my mom loved you so much that she actually took her life, like, how could you not really care? Like, all you did was kick a gas can, like, at least punch your car or something. But he doesn't really have a big reaction, and Ben doesn't like it. So Ben just instinctively decides, I'm gonna go burn his car down. You know, like, fuck the car, fuck him, I hate him, he doesn't deserve that car. Goes, gets the gas can, pours it on the car, and lights it up in flames, leaves. When he's almost home, he sees like a ton of smoke, and he kind of starts having a panic attack because he realizes, like, oh shit, that's a lot more smoke than just a car like went on fire, like something must have happened. Gets home, Kyle is there. Ben is having a panic attack. Kyle calms him down, and Ben tells him, like, I screwed up. I went and started this guy's car on fire, and I think it started the house on fire. And Kyle, all he has to say is, was anyone hurt? Like, did anyone die? What happened to the people? Because people are what matters. And Ben's like, I have no idea. And so Kyle finds it on the news channel, and they start following it, and they find out that a girl named Fallon, who is big on a TV show, was injured. And they find out she was like airlifted to a hospital in critical condition. And then they basically stay up all night watching this, and Ben hasn't cried. All he's doing is watching this. And they find out that she did not die. She just has severe burning, and she's gonna be okay. And Ben is just distraught. He cannot believe he did this. He had no idea that a girl was inside the house. The house and how this guy was acting, it made it seem like he was a bachelor, completely alone, and also he just wanted to burn the car, but it didn't matter because he hurt this girl. Miles, the oldest brother, comes in and is trying to talk to Ben later, and Ben says something about the mom, like, I hate her, she's just a selfish bitch, I hate her, how could she, da 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 da, she only cares about herself. His brother gets pissed and like goes to grab him and is like, how could you say that, like, didn't you read her note? And then they both realize, like, no, Ben hasn't read the suicide note, he has no idea. The brother's like, hold on, I'm gonna go get it, just wait. He goes, gets the note from the police station, couldn't actually get it because it was still evidence, so took a picture and left it for Ben to read. Ben reads it, and his mother had cancer, and it was stage 4, terminal, like she was going to die within the next few months, and she didn't want to do that for herself or for her family. Like, she wanted to die on her own terms before the cancer really took all the life out of her. So she chose to kill herself prior to letting the cancer do it. And she felt terrible for how Ben was gonna be the one to find her. She knew that, and she felt so sad, and she felt terrible for leaving him, but it was gonna happen either now or in a few months, and she'd rather do it when they all had a fond memory of her and she had a fond memory of herself. It had nothing to do with the man. And Ben realizes in that moment that, like, holy shit, before he knew he ruined this innocent girl's life, but now he like truly felt it, and he broke down and cried. And at this point, Fallon, in real life, in real time at 23, is like, oh my god. She keeps reading and finds out more that in the next 2 years, Ben kind of went on a downhill spiral, would get super drunk and hook up with girls he doesn't even remember, wouldn't even remember in the morning. But on the day that he met Fallon 2 years later, on November 9th, he like was just getting done from a one-night stand drunk occasion, but he was with Jordan, and this was when Jordan was still with Kyle, and he didn't sleep with Jordan or anything, but he ended up calling her, and like she had picked him up and let him stay with her. He was all discombobulated, whatever, but Jordan kind of gives him her peace of mind about how he is going about his life. He's like, whatever. He ends up going to the gravesite to visit his mom, and someone else is there. Fallon's father. Kyle, kind of his advice after they watched the whole news story 2 years prior, was just never tell anyone about this, never look up Fallon or her father on the internet again, like have no connection go about your life. No one died. Do not tell anyone. Stay your distance. And so that was Ben's plan, but it was just eating him alive, not knowing what really happened to Fallon, because he felt terrible. So he is at the gravesite in his car, hadn't gone out, and Fallon's father is there, and he decides to follow Fallon's father just in case he was about to go see his daughter. Sure enough, he was. They're at the restaurant. And then Ben goes into the restaurant, and that's how the first November 9th meeting happens at the age of 18. That is the manuscript. Fallon is just like shocked, and chooses to go to the restaurant because at the end of all of this in the letter, it said, I will be at the restaurant all day, and I will leave on November 10th, like starting at midnight, I'll go. But I'm gonna wait all day for you, and I hope you show up after reading this. And she does, just as Ben is leaving the restaurant because it's about to strike midnight, and they rush to each other and make up, and Fallon apologizes, and Ben's like, what are you apologizing for? Like, I'm forever in your debt. Like, I started the fire, I hurt you, that will never change. And Fallon is like, no, like, you were a kid, you had no idea, like, it was an accident, I love you. They both exchanged I love yous, and that is the end of the book. They lived happily ever after. So basically, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan, and I will now be reading this book on November 9th until I die because it was that good. That is a recap. That is my rating. It's 10 out of 10, a great book. I highly recommend it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I will try to get out a book recap review video every month, but we'll see. It will come much more frequently once I'm out of school in a month and a half. So bear with me. Like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day, week, life, etc. Hopefully filled with lots and lots of love, like Fallon and Ben. Mine is not filled with love yet, but we're hoping and praying one day it is filled with that. Okay, it's not a pity party, so bye.
My eyes are